everybody, what's going on? KSA Kris here. Wanted to run down real quick. We had our first mastermind session at the Signature Real Estate office. And the very first mastermind session, I just kind of want to. I didn't even have this down. Hopefully, you all heard me, but wanted to do a quick roll up from the first mastermind session that we had yesterday. I'm going to try to do this after every mastermind that we have. And yesterday's mastermind was about building a productive daily routine to for your bigger goals, reaching your goals in 2019. It was really, really cool. I can only give a synopsis. Unfortunately, if you weren't physically there, you're not going to get all of the back and forth and the conversation that took place. However, we could talk about, the things that were spoken about based off of the notes that I took. So let's run through it real quick. Right when we started off, we started talking about just basic questions to think about while we are actually going through the mastermind. And some of them are, what are you doing to earn or chase $10,000 a day? What are the productive daily? What is a productive daily routine? What should you be doing every day? Because Grant Cardone says if it's worth doing once, it's worth doing every day. And we talked about time blocking, and we also said, what are we doing to avoid distractions? And how can we be more violent about our protecting our time while we're doing those certain things? So it was a really cool conversation because we started. First, we went around the room, and what we found out is that most everybody that attended, which was a pretty good turnout, most everybody that attended, they're inconsistent. They're inconsistent. Almost every agent is inconsistent with a daily routine. And even though a lot of agents had different fancy things to try to hold them accountable, whether it's time blocking, some of them had boards and all these other things, they still weren't being consistent and they still weren't following through on what they should or should not be doing. Some of the agents talked about getting out of the house and the difference in energy between getting out of the house and also coming into the office. And another one that kept coming up was overall accountability as we were going around. Being able to hold, if you can't hold yourself self-accountable, how do you actually have accountability or how can you build an accountability? But one of the coolest things that I think that was said while we were going around the room before we really kicked off was one of the agents had said, their goal is to be intentional. So when you look at a daily routine, being intentional with exactly what you're doing. So I think that all comes into play when you talk about, especially, okay, if you want to be intentional and you want to do specific tasks, if you are inconsistent and unable to hold yourself accountable, therein lies the challenge. Most agents actually know what they should or should not be doing. Most agents know or have a plan or have a plan. Have a plan. I don't even know if that's English. Most agents have had a plan on how to create a daily routine and actually how to do it functionally, but it's the consistency and the accountability that usually messes people up. So, what should we be doing? So, we went around as we were talking about what should we be doing or what are people doing right now. And some people said, I'm talking to people, I'm communicating with people, and all these different things. It kept coming out to a bunch of things. And what we found is that a lot of the agents that were there, they're doing stuff. They aren't being intentional at all with their business. They aren't sitting down and creating, this is what I do during the day and this is how I do it. Um, but I think one of the neat things that we come upon was when you're intentional and you start time blocking, and this is when we got deep into time blocking, and you start time blocking and then you hold yourself accountable to those specific time blocks to do or accomplish certain tasks. What ends up happening is good things, but then on top of that, you have to have patience. Patience. And I think what ends up happening, including myself, we start doing a specific task. We do it for a week. We maybe do it for 2 weeks. And it's something that we know is going to give us a return, but we don't have the patience. We try to move on to the next shiny object or the next shiny tool. Or I saw in the Signature Real Estate Group agents page on Facebook, well, I have some money, so what can I spend money on to get more deals? And it's like, there are core things that every agent should be doing. And I would say definitely based off of their personalities, that if they're consistent and they're intentional and they're putting it into their schedule and doing it, as long as they have patience and they do it consistently over an extended period of time, they're going to get returns. You don't need to go out and find the next big widget. So this is what we really ended up coming up with. First off, it's more or less first, it's a mindset shift. Trying to shift your mindset and starting to change your target instead of saying, and somebody brought it up. So one of the questions was, what are you doing to chase or earn $10,000 a day? A lot of agents, what they're going to do is they're going to say, well, I'm going to make 100 cold calls. And they're focused on making 100 calls, but they actually aren't being intentional on, I want to talk to 30 people today. I want to get one person to say yes and get an appointment today, and actually shifting that mindset because you've changed your target. Instead of just getting and surviving through 100 cold calls, say, I'm not worried about surviving through 100 cold calls. During this time block, I'm going after, I want to communicate with X number of people. I need to get X number of people on the phone because I need to get a deal. So I really liked that that came up in the conversation, talking about a mindset shift to changing your target. And then we got deep into time blocks. So this is what we come up with our time blocks. Um, so time block one. Time block one, what we all sort of come up with, and we'll be following up next Tuesday. So if you come to the signature mastermind session again next Tuesday, we're going to do it every Tuesday at 11:30. We're going to hold everybody accountable to make sure that they implement it. But we all agreed that we're going to look to wake up 2 hours before we have to be at work. So time block one, you're up 2 hours before you physically start working for the day. In that 2 hours, everybody's going to be a little bit different, but in that 2 hours, it's all about creating energy. You want to get and be in energy. So for some people, that's going to the gym. For some people, that's going to be meditation, maybe yoga. For some people, that's going to be listening to something positive in the morning, whether it's a podcast, whether it's your favorite, positive, inspirational guru, or something that's business related. But you want to create energy and be in energy. You're trying to raise the bar before you actually go out and let the world start beating on you a little bit to make some money and have that energy taken from you. So that's time block one. 2 hours before you wake up, get in energy. Time block two. Now, what we talked about, so right now you're at your peak. You got all this energy, you're ready to go. Time block two is preparing to actually unload that energy. So it's already been wound back. Now we're just going to unload it, right? So time block two is actually get organized and prepare for the day. Time block two is no more than 30 minutes. 30 minutes. You sit down and you should have already looked at, like me personally, you can see I don't have it here. But usually the night before, I actually write out my to-do list. And we'll talk about that a little bit here in a second. But I write out my to-do list the night before. I come in, I look at it, I check my time blocks on my schedule and shift them if I need to, if I have appointments. And then I'm going to pick 3 things that are extremely important that I have to do today. They have to be done, otherwise I'm not going home. But really, it's get your checklist, get organized, and deal with previous business, old business. Okay, so it's really that. Get organized. Time block two, no more than 30 minutes. Time block one, get in the energy 2 hours before you wake up. As soon as you start working, 30 minutes, get organized. Time block three, now we're going to unload. This should be, you got a ton of energy, you're going out there, you're going to go find a deal. So this is your prospecting time. This is your time to prospect. Now everybody's going to do this a little bit different, but at a minimum, you should be prospecting for an hour, or 1 to 3 hours, however long it's going to be. But when you do it, you break it up into time blocks on specifically what you're going to do. So when you do that, whether it's direct mail, whether it's cold calls, whether it's door knocking, social media, whatever that might be, to go out and try to generate new business, you're going to go all in during that time block and just completely be intentional and focused on that, and avoid all distractions, like close your door, be violently protective of that time. So if somebody walks in and says, hey, I just need a minute, I don't have a minute. I don't have a minute because it takes me 15 minutes to get into the zone. Once I'm in the zone, if I've been working for 15 minutes, you come in, you distract me, it takes me another 15 minutes. I just burned through a quarter of my time. You just burned through a quarter of my time. So make sure that you're violently protective of that time, and jump right into time block three, which is going to be prospecting. 100% prospecting. And then time block four right after that. So time block three, up to you, minimum of an hour, ideally 3. And then you roll into time block 4. That's going to be your follow-ups. Now, follow-ups are going to be whether they're your inbound leads, they're your nurture clients, they're people that you've previously talked to during your time block 3, which is going to be your prospecting. So I previously talked to this person on prospecting. They said they were interested. They said call them back in a week. You're going to follow up. You're going to call them back in a week, and you're going to kind of see where they are and what's going on. But that's your follow-ups. Now, once you're done with time block 4, we said, hey, after that, it's called free skate. So free skate is you do what you need to do. That's when you deal with clients. That's when you deal with escrows. That's when you deal with all these other things that are going on in your business. And if you don't have any business, guess what you could or should be doing? A, stop lying to yourself. Well, I'm busy. If you don't have anything in escrow and you don't have any business, you don't have any listings, you don't have anything to do.
you need to rinse and repeat. Go right back to time block 1, get in the energy. Time block 2, reorganize yourself. Time block 3, start prospecting. Time block 4, follow-ups. So really good mastermind session. Of course, it was an hour long, and I'm squeezing it all in here within 10 or 11 minutes. So if you want to continue to see more of this, I'm going to make sure I post up a quick synopsis every probably Wednesday. Uh, but I would highly recommend show up on Tuesdays. Show up on Tuesdays, 11:30. If you end up watching this outside of, if you see this on YouTube when I post it up, if you live in Southern California and you want to make the trip to Murrieta, California, you are welcome to attend as well. Come and join us in the mastermind session. Just hit me up. You can leave a comment on my Facebook page, and I will shoot you an address, or yeah, Facebook or YouTube, either one. I'll shoot you the address and swing out and come see us. All right, appreciate it. Thank you very much. Talk to y'all later. Bye.